Hey, what's going on, guys? It's FPL Yusuf, and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to be going over my final team selection ahead of game week 4. I'm going to be showing you guys my current draft, which I've obviously wildcarded into. We're going to go over some key questions surrounding certain players, but also some potential transfers that I might be making right before the deadline. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for joining me here today on my channel for another video. Before we get into this one, if you wouldn't mind dropping it a thumbs up and subscribing down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. So just before I get into this actual video, I just want to set up a quick apology. If you hear my voice, it's a little bit, I'm a little bit under the weather at the moment. I've got a bit of a bad cold. So yeah, just an apology if you hear a little bit of sniffles, or I'll try and edit out the coughs and stuff. But yeah, just a little heads up on that. If you're wondering why my voice sounds like this, that is the reason why. But we are not here for that. We are here to get into my team going into game week 4. So as you guys can see on screen, this is currently, at the time of recording, it's Friday afternoon. This is what my wildcard draft is looking like. So we'll go through it from 1 to 11, and I'll talk about some of the potential things that I'm looking to do before, obviously, Saturday's deadline. In goal, we're starting off with Emi Martinez. Now, this is one of the things I'm going to touch on a bit later about, potential transfers before the deadline. Obviously, Aston Villa are probably one of the top teams right now for the next sort of 4 or 5 game weeks with fixture-wise. And it's something that I want to get on. As you can see, I've currently got a double up, which, I might as well just bring Digne into this as well. So I've got both of them at the moment. Can I tell you that I'm 100% happy about owning 2 Aston Villa defenders? I don't think I am. And I think, to be honest with you, by the time we get to Saturday's deadline, I do expect one of them to be gone. Now, the question comes in, do we look to buy a premium goalkeeper, so a 5.5, a Raya? Alisson's a little bit harder because obviously I already have 3 Liverpool players. But obviously Arsenal's fixtures are not the greatest. Ederson, yes, but I vowed last season that I would never own this guy again, because every time I've owned Ederson in FPL over the years, he just has never done anything worth decent. So yeah, it's a little bit of a tricky one around the goalkeeper spot at the moment, which is why Emi Martinez was in there. And I'm wondering, is it easier to find a replacement for Lucas Digne? However, Digne does probably offer the higher upside. He's obviously got the assist threat. My big question is, now that Champions League will be starting up, will he play every single minute of every single game? Probably not, whereas Emi Martinez probably does guarantee you that. So, yeah, I think by the time we get to Saturday's deadline, I'm pretty sure one of them will go from my team. It's just a question of which one. With the rest of the defence, Trent, kind of just a mainstay. Never really sort of considered getting rid of him on my wild card. I think there will be a period, sort of 3-4 weeks down the line where I do look to get rid of him just to free up some money. Maybe around game week 6 as Arsenal's fixtures swing. Maybe I want to get back to Saliba. But yeah, I think for the time being, Trent is just gonna stay put. I am expecting an attacking return from him soon at some point. Mazraoui from Man United, again, he's in this team because he's going to be used at different points. Obviously, they've got a great fixture this week against Southampton, where I do expect Man United to keep a clean sheet against them. And usually when Man United do keep a clean sheet, he is quite good for bonus points. So yeah, for me, he's somebody that I'm going to sort of utilize, but he'll be in and out the side depending on kind of what Man United's fixtures are, and again what the rest of my squad's fixtures is looking like. And the last defender is Rico Lewis. Now he's probably the biggest risk in terms of minutes out of this team. Now, as you can see, I've got him starting in this team, and to be honest with you, for most weeks other than maybe game week 5 when City play Arsenal, he probably will be needed. Now it's a little bit of a risk because obviously Kyle Walker is still there. Champions League's going to start back up soon, so I don't know how Man City's rotation is going to be. So just bear in mind, if you are somebody who's bought in Rico Lewis, like myself, I think you have to err on the side of there is a possibility that he's going to miss games. Now, usually with Man City, they're quite good for early team news, so I think pretty much more often than not, providing they're one of the first games playing, we should hopefully find out some news about them. But obviously, their games in the Champions League will kind of give us a good inkling as to who's going to be playing, depending on what type of squad they put out. So yeah, just bear in mind, if you have gone for Rico Lewis, you need to err on the side of caution that there is possibility that he might be sort of rotated out. So just to make sure that you have another player who's good enough or good enough caliber to come in and sort of replace him. Okay, so onto the midfield, and we might as well get straight to the big talking point around this midfield, and that is Mo Salah has come into my team. Now, I did start the season without him. I didn't expect Liverpool to be as good as they have been, if I'm being honest with you. I thought that there might be a little bit of transition time under Arne Slot, but they have looked quite good. Now, granted, they've had the best fixtures on paper out of all the top teams, but you can only play what's in front of you, and Mo Salah at the moment is averaging double-digit hauls every game. I think the biggest reason of bringing him in is obviously for the game week 5. You're looking for a captaincy that's not going to be Haaland because obviously he's playing against Arsenal, and Salah for me is just that guy. He's playing at Anfield. Also, maybe you're looking for a captain for game week 6. Haaland goes away to Newcastle, which to be honest with you, I think he'll do quite well in. But some people may want to look elsewhere for captaincy that week. So yeah, Salah for me, 12.5 million. He is expensive, and it does. What I've realized is by not owning him for the first few weeks, it does allow me to get other assets. So for example, with the Salah money that I saved for the first 3 weeks, it allowed me to afford Saka and Havertz up front. Whereas with Salah in my team, as you can see, my forward line is quite budget in Danny Welbeck and Calvert-Lewin, but we'll get onto them in a minute. He's going to be coupled up with Diogo Jota, who again just going to stay in my team. It's a hard one between him and Diaz, depending on which one you want to go for. For me personally, the reason why I've gone for Jota is for 2 reasons. Number one, even though Diaz has had better numbers, I think Jota is the better finisher. And I think if he does get the chances, he will convert them. My other thing is that Luis Diaz has played 90 minutes in both the international friendlies. To ask him to come back to play, in a game where Liverpool should be able to get through Nottingham Forest at Anfield. They've got Cody Gakpo there who can play there. Darwin Núñez can play there. Chiesa can play there. So it's not like they haven't got anyone else that could play on that left. Even Jota could play on that left-hand side. So for me, I do worry about Luis Diaz starting for this game. And I don't, especially with Champions League starting up next week as well, I don't know whether or not he will get the start. And if he does, will he play 90 minutes? Probably not. So for me, Jota's just going to stay there for now. The next midfielder I brought in for this week is Mitoma. Now, he is with a view of having him for a short punt. Obviously, Brighton have got 2 great home games coming up, back-to-back, Nottingham Forest and I believe it's Ipswich, which they've got in both of them too. And for me, I want a piece of the Brighton attack. Now, like I said, I've got Welbeck, which we'll come on to, but for me, Mitoma is that guy out of that whole attacking lineup that is probably going to get closest to 90 minutes, if not 90 minutes every game. And I just like Mitoma as well. I think he's a fantastic player. When he's on it, dangerous, goals, assists, bonus points. He covers a lot. So for me, yeah, I'm just gonna keep a hold of Mitoma for now, at least for the next 2 weeks, and maybe game week 6 we look to transfer him out to somebody else. But for the time being, he's gonna be that third midfielder in that slot for me. And the final midfielder I've got in the starting 11 in obviously I'm playing a 4-4-2 is Morgan Rogers. Now I am a little bit uncertain about Morgan Rogers, and I am wondering, do I upgrade and do I spend a little bit more of my money, because this team has got money in the bank, it's worth me saying, and I'm going to get on to what I plan to do with it in my future transfers at the end of this video. But yeah, there is a potential that I could use extra money to upgrade him. I am liking the look of Jarrod Bowen, and he is somebody that really interests me. Now I probably could make it work where I do have enough money to buy Jarrod Bowen, but then it does affect certain transfers that I'm planning to make in game week 6 down the line. So it's still a little bit of the risk versus reward ratio. But I'm also thinking to myself about, the big question I've had this week around wildcarding is, do you bring in players now that are going to save you transfer later down the line? So for example, Mbomo and Vissa are 2 which have been quite highly talked about, but obviously they've got quite difficult fixtures over the next 2. However, from game week 6, they're probably players that you'd want to get in. So do you bring them in now, knowing that, okay, you're going to bench them for the next 2 weeks, but it saves you a transfer later down the line? This is the other thing which I'm trying to sort of contemplate with my team. So for the time being, Morgan Rogers is in there, but there is a view that I could look to upgrade into someone else, but I'm going to come on to that at a later point in my video in my future transfers. And finally, the 3 strikers, Erling Haaland, obviously, without a doubt, is going to be that made man. Now, as you can see, he has currently got a yellow flag on him. Now, that is for personal reasons. It's not an injury. Unfortunately, one of his best friends, I think, passed away. So our condolences go out to obviously the family and Erling Haaland. But me personally, I'm not sure whether or not he will play. I think it's a really difficult situation when it comes to those sort of things. And of course, it's got to be what's best for Haaland. So I think just if you're captaining him this week, just make sure that you have a view to have a different vice captain. Because obviously if Haaland's not in the squad, if Haaland doesn't play, then he's not going to play at all. So yeah, just make sure you have a different vice captain set on. Probably Mo Salah if you've got him. If you haven't, maybe somebody else. But me personally, I think the way Haaland's mentality is, I probably would expect him to start. He's chasing, a record, and it's almost like it would be a nice way to sort of send off, such a tragic event. So we'll see. But yeah, like I said, just make sure you have a different vice captain on somebody else, just in case he's not up to it. And my other striker in this team is Danny Welbeck. Now, it was a toss up between him and João Pedro. Both of them are the same price, both playing for the same team. Obviously, Welbeck does play as a number 9, whereas João Pedro is more of a number 10. But João Pedro has the minutes, he has the penalties, so there was things to consider. I think the thing that swung it for me is the fact that obviously João Pedro did go away for Brazil. He did play 45 minutes. I don't know whether or not they'll risk him. It's a game against Ipswich at home. They have so many attacking players that they could bring in. The question I ask is it worth risking João Pedro for a game like this where you could put in, Jorginho Ruto, who they've signed in for big money, Adingra, they've got bodies that they can bring in. So yeah, I think for me, Welbeck is just a little bit more of a safer pick for now. But again, he's the same as Mitoma. He's a short punt for the next 2 weeks, and then we'll look to transfer him out to somebody else. Okay, so I just want to go over some sort of possible transfers which may happen before the game week 4 deadline. So if you are trying to keep up to date with my team, make sure you follow me on Twitter, because that's where you'll see live updates and you'll see my final team selection and the transfers I've made before the deadline. YouTube, you'll just see this video now, but yeah, if you follow me on Twitter, then you will see that final team before the deadline comes. So let's just start up straight away with the Aston Villa defense. It's something that I talked about. Emi Martinez. I think the real possibility of replacement is David Raya or Alisson, but it's a really problematic one because obviously Alisson requires an extra change. So I haven't put him on the graphic, but it's something that I'm thinking about. If do I take Jota down and put Alisson in goal? I'm not sure. I think David Raya is probably the one for me that I'm looking at. I think if you're going for David Raya, obviously you have to accept the fact that the next 2 games aren't great. I could see Arsenal coming out of the Spurs game with a clean sheet. Obviously, Arsenal got a clean sheet against Man City last season as well, so it's not out of the realms of possibility. I just think if you have David Raya or you're buying him on the wild card, it's with the idea that you'll hold until game week 6 when Arsenal obviously have good fixtures after that. So yeah, for me, it's something that I'm considering. Obviously, it's an extra 5.5 million which you have to use to upgrade Emi Martinez. But like I said, with Emi Martinez, he's kind of the one that's guaranteed the minutes out of that Aston Villa defense, whereas Digne, there's a chance for rotation. So I think probably it will be more than likely that Digne is the one who I replace. The question is for who. Now, I've sold Anthony Robertson. For Digne, so I don't plan on bringing him back. I don't like the way Fulham's fixtures really swing. It's not really for me, so I'm kind of looking around the 4.5 bracket now. There's a few options. Ola Aina is one of them. Again, he, with the fixtures he's got coming up, would have to be on the bench for the time being, which obviously isn't great because I've got Digne starting in this team. So it is really difficult in terms of options and picks around this position, or at least around the 4.5 position. The other option is Lewis Dunk. Again, Brighton again have got the best 2 fixtures coming up, but obviously it's the same as Mitoma and Welbeck, is that there is a view for a longer term transfer out, which I don't know if I really want to have to pencil in another transfer, which I'm going to get rid of. So yeah, for me, it's a little bit of a tricky one around this 4.5 million defender type role. Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace obviously playing against Leicester this week. Could we see a clean sheet from Crystal Palace, the first one of the season? Possibly. Jamie Vardy, I think, has got quite a good record against Crystal Palace. I don't know if I would completely say it's a nailed, but it's something that I'm potentially considering. Obviously, they've got a decent fixture. They've got Everton coming up. Man United, okay, not a great game, but one that you could see Crystal Palace keeping a clean sheet in. So there's a few options. I think if there was one player that I'm going to get rid of, if it's Emi Martinez or Digne, I think at the time of recording, it's probably going to be pushing more towards Lucas Digne. Now, the next upgrade that I'm looking at is Morgan Rogers, and around that £5 million midfielder. Now, I've got Semenyo on the bench at this point, so I could always downgrade him, which would free up the 0.5 million. However, I think I want to look to get someone with maybe a little bit more of attacking threat. So at least over the next couple of weeks, Eze is obviously, one of the options. He could buy him cheaper than what he started at. He's obviously at 6.9 now, got a great fixture against Leicester. Like I said, with Mark Gahey, got Everton, got Man United. You can see him returning in all those games. Jarrod Bowen's another one. And Jarrod Bowen, there's just something about Jarrod Bowen that I really like. I really like him as a player, and I really like him as an FPL asset. And I think, he's had the first few games to kind of just get settled with the West Ham squad. So it's somebody that I'm considering. And my only problem is that obviously, like I said, by moving Rodgers up, maybe does affect some transfers that I'm looking to do later down the line. And one of them would be to move Danny Welbeck up to Kai Havertz. So again, it could be possible if I downgrade Trent, but do I really want to do that? It's a lot of different transfers, which is why I'm trying to sort of weigh up what the best move is. But I think for me, if I am going to upgrade Morgan Rogers, it will be to either Eze or Jarrod Bowen. Okay, so on to some key questions now. The first one is obviously the biggest one, and that is the captaincy debate. Do you go for Haaland? Do you go for Salah? Now, I'm going to put Haaland's personal issues aside for this and just base it solely on the player and the fixtures. Now, like I said, and I touched on in the first part of the video, if you are captain Haaland, make sure you have a vice captain set on a very good player or someone who's got a good fixture, in your opinion, this week. Because just in case there's a chance that he doesn't play, then, at least that way you're covered. But let's just, as I said, we're going to put that to the side and we're going to just look at the players based on who they are, the team they're playing, which player I think is going to get the most points. So both of them are playing at home, which is obviously a great start. Captaincy, you probably want to back your team at home, the player that you're captaining. Brentford for City, and Forest for Liverpool. Now, I think on paper, for me, City have got the higher ceiling here, in my opinion. I think Brentford are a team who seem to be talked up a lot about how good they are defensively. I'm not 100% sure that's true. Whenever I've watched Brentford defend recently, they haven't looked that great, and they're going to the Etihad, where Man City usually are quite free flowing, free scoring as well. And I just think Haaland, he's in the form of his life. You know, back-to-back hat tricks, has a chance that I believe set a record of 3 hat tricks in a row. I don't believe anyone in the Premier League's ever done that. And you know, if there's any motivation for him to want to do it, it's this week more than any. So for me, I think Haaland's just winning that race for me right now. I think Mo Salah has obviously got a good chance. You know, he's so good at Anfield. We know how good Liverpool are. I do just think Nottingham Forest are just a better overall team than Brentford are, especially maybe more on the defensive side of things. So not that Salah can't get big returns, and obviously, you know, as a midfielder, he gets an extra point for the goal, extra point for the clean sheet, which is why he's matching Haaland on total points right now. They're both on 41, despite Haaland scoring more goals. I think for me, I'm just swerving towards Erling Haaland ever so slightly on this one. Okay, is Ezri Konsa a sell, and is Aston Villa defence something that we should think about? Now, Ezri Konsa obviously did pull up with an injury for England. We don't know, at the time of recording, I haven't heard how bad it is from Unai Emery, so we're not sure on that one. Is he a sell? I think for me personally, I would say wait and hear what Emery says about him. If Emery comes out and says he's going to be out for a while, blah, 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 then maybe, you know, he's someone that you could look to move on. You know, at that price point, there's other options you can go to. Mark Gahey, like I said, you could move to Lewis Dunk for a couple of weeks. There are alternatives for him. Aston Villa in general, they're not a team that I actually am expecting a lot of clean sheets from, despite their fixtures, which is why I'm sort of keen on getting off of the double Aston Villa defence. I don't really know how many clean sheets I expect them to get. I think they are a little bit overrated at the time. No offense, Aston Villa fans. It's nothing personal. I just think without Douglas Luiz in that midfield, I do think that they are a little bit more open. But also they're going to be starting up Champions League soon. And I think for a lot of these players, they haven't played, you know, 2 games a week. And I think sometimes it can be quite taxing, especially the first time that they're doing it. So yeah, for me, I think having one Aston Villa defender isn't a bad thing. You know, with the run they've got, they will keep some clean sheets. I just don't know how many. So for me, yeah, I think if you can get into the Aston Villa defence, 100% do it. You know, Pau Torres looking even more nailed now. I think he already was nailed before the Constant injury, but now the Constant's gone down 100%. There is an opportunity now for I'm probably going to butcher his name, Nedeljkovic, I think his name is, the young right back. Obviously, Matty Cash is still injured. Konsa could play right back, but now he's down, which means he's probably going to start as a 4 million defender. So, you know, if you haven't got a 4 million defender yet, maybe that's a little punt you could go for. But yeah, I think for me, Aston Villa defence definitely worth investing in. Probably just the one at max though. Finally, one question that I've seen talked about a lot is what do you do if you own Bukayo Saka? Now, he's a tricky one because obviously Arsenal's fixtures coming up aren't the greatest. They've got Spurs away and then they've got Man City away. It's not the best. It's not the best. I think the biggest question is, do we upgrade Saka to Salah? Now, I think if it's anything more than a free transfer, the answer is categorically no. Despite the fixtures, despite how good Mo Salah is, I think if you're spending a minus to make this move, definitely do not do it. If you're on a wild card or you have a free transfer, is it feasible to do it? 100% yes. You know, Salah over the next 2 weeks has got the better fixtures. And like I said at the start of the video, you know, Salah's probably going to be the go-to captaincy in game week 5, as Saka will be playing against Man City. So Saka against Haaland, you probably won't want to captain either of them. Salah will be the standout option for that. So it does give you that option. Now, I think the one thing you have to understand is that if you are going to go to Mo Salah, you probably want to have a route to either A, Saka coming back in game week 6, or just an Arsenal attacker, probably Kai Havertz. Depending on how Raheem Sterling plays as well. If obviously Sterling starts playing more regular minutes, then there's a chance for him. But I think if you are going to move Saka to Salah, you should have in your back of your mind at least a route back to Bukayo Saka, whether that be downgrading Salah or upgrading someone else, possibly. But then I think if you own Salah, Haaland, and Saka, the rest of your team is probably not going to be in as good shape as most people. So I don't know if I would advise that. But yeah, I think, like I said, if you're going to take a minus for it, I would say don't do it. Saka could easily score against Tottenham Hotspur. There's no doubt about it. Spurs aren't great defensively. Yes, it's a North London derby. Yes, it's going to be a cagey game, but Tottenham defensively aren't a fantastic team. So yeah, of course, there's room that he could get on the score sheet. City might be a little bit more of a tricky game, but again, you never know. Obviously, Saka is on penalties the same way Salah is, so they both got that route to point. But I think if I had to choose, me personally, like I'm on my wild card this week, I have gone for Salah with the idea that okay, maybe I'm going to bring Saka back in game week 6 for Salah. So it might just be a quick, short 2-week pun, you know, just to give myself a good captaincy in game week 5 with the idea that, okay, you know what, I'm going to transfer him back in game week 6. But yeah, for me, I think if you've got him, I wouldn't be against holding him. I wouldn't be put off by the fixtures too much, especially not the Spurs game. But like I said, if you have got one free transfer and you're looking to just try and get an upside, then yes, Salah's definitely a great option. Okay, so thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, don't forget to drop a thumbs up and subscribe down below. I just want to say a massive thank you to all you guys who've shown so much support over the last week, especially on my wildcard video. You know, the views on it were crazy, so I just want to say thank you so much. Like I said, my videos haven't been as frequent this week. I am still trying to just get over this cold or flu, but hopefully, you know, by the end of this week and start of next week, I'll be back to my usual schedule of, you know, the 3, maybe 4 videos a week. So yeah, just thank you guys so much for all the support you've shown recently. I hope this game week goes well for you. If you have got any questions, feel free to drop it in the comments down below, or, you know, follow me over on Twitter. I'll leave a link to it in the description. Like I said, if you guys want to see my updated team closer to the deadline and any transfers that I made overnight, then that's where I'll be posting. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you have enjoyed it, don't forget to drop a thumbs up and subscribe down below, and I'll catch you guys next time.